Okay, and we are recording. All right. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. For those that are here live and for those that are watching this on the recording, we are here tonight because we are going to talk with Jenn, and she is going to give us some of her inspirational feedback on how she has her personal sales where they are. She's been with the company since November, and she's had very good sales, and we all want to know what can we do to get our sales where they need to be, and hopefully she can give us some insight on helping us to get our sales up for each month. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenn. We will have some time after for a Q&A. If you have any questions, please put it down in the chat, and we'll try to address those as we can. But Jenn, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and help us sell wine.
All right, I will do my best. I thank you so much for having me here and for everybody being here tonight. When Kristen had texted me and asked me if I would be interested in doing this, I, of course, was flattered to be asked. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not really sure what words of wisdom I can impart to help people. And then once I actually got pencil to paper and started thinking things through, the ideas and concepts started to kind of come together and culminate of what the last 6 or 7 months of my life has looked like as a scout and seller independent consultant. So I figured I would start at the beginning, which is the best place to start, which is how I got into the business. A little tiny bit of the background, and then I kind of tried to narrow it down to 4 or 5 key sort of pillars and what, things that I think have contributed to the success that I've had in my personal sales consistency over the last 6, almost 7 months now. So the very first part is a little bit about my background. So I'm in Michigan, in Rochester Hills, which is a suburb of Detroit. I am a stay-at-home mom, so this is my side gig along with taking care of my family. I have 3 kids, and they are grown, so I've been trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, and Scout and Seller came across my desk as an opportunity, and I haven't looked back since, and it's been awesome. So starting with that, I have a background in health services administration. My bachelor's is in that, and my master's degree is in human resources. But I had been stay-at-home mom for the last 17 years, so really a lot of my network has been within my community. A lot of that networking I kind of have been doing over the last 17 years. So I would say that was definitely an opportunity that I was able to capitalize on. And we'll kind of come back to that in a minute. But so sort of along the way, I guess the very first thing that I would say when I got my little trusty Big Plans 2019 planner from my upline, once I signed on as a consultant, that was sort of my Bible, my go-to, setting goals, marking my tasks down. And one of the things that really sort of resonated with me over actually this last month really was, everybody talks about goal setting, which is awesome. And that has been super helpful for me to kind of have an idea of what each of those goals are. And everybody's goals are going to be a little bit different, obviously, based on what your life is and lifestyle, what you want to get out of your business. For me, it was sort of a combination of things. But more importantly, what I have learned is what's even more important than the goals that you put down on paper is a growth plan. How are you going to achieve those goals? And so it was interesting because I was sitting in my son's golf tournament banquet, and they had a motivational speaker come in and talk to the kids. And that was what he talked about, was a growth plan. Goals are great and you have to have them, but without having that plan in place and how you're going to do that. So for example, in our business and sort of the sales arena too, what I have found helpful is as far as setting the goals, but then how am I going to, if I want to achieve 2 tastings a month, well, how am I going to make that happen? Where are my leads going to come from? And a big part of that goes to partnerships. So for me, that was the one thing that when I sat in on the first tasting before I became a consultant, I didn't actually think of doing home in personal tastings, private tastings. My brain went directly to company client events, member events. I mean, that's actually what I thought of when I came home. Oh, I want to do this. This is going to be huge. And so my very first event, I have yet to have a private tasting at my home or a launch tasting. The very first person that I talked to the day after I signed on was, I'm a member of a gym, and it's kind of a very small boutique gym, and he sells, it's a young couple family, and he sells clean healthcare products and supplements in the front half of his store, and does smoothies and juices. And I went in the next day and I said, Doug, you're not going to believe this. I started working. And I'm going to be selling clean crafted wine. And he's all about clean living. So we instantly, within a matter of 24 hours, had my first tasting on the books for 2 weeks after I had signed on. And it created this huge marketing buzz for his members to have this closed tasting. And he had to turn people away at the tasting, it was like, I was absolutely terrified when I did the first tasting, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 2 weeks to learn everything I need to know about the wines, the company, wine in general, to be able to do this. And so, I mean, that was like, talk about throwing yourself right in there. But that has been a really great referral source because it's a true partnership. So when I'm not working my business, he's helping me work my business, because I'm helping him, maintain members and doing something different that other gyms aren't doing, other businesses aren't doing. And he's working my business in the sense that I'm now known as the wine lady at the gym. And so people are, being referred to me through that. So that was, it's a really great, obviously resource for his people that he's doing nutritional consultations for, and then obviously for my business. And I've had a couple other relationships like that have developed in different arenas. But so that would be my other point, when it would be, as far as networking and partnerships, not limiting yourself to your friends' network and people socially. I instantly think of all the places that I go into and I support their businesses: orthodontist office, dental office, esthetician, massage therapy. I mean, you name it. If you're supporting their business, you should be talking about what you're doing with them. And it's a great, it's a great way to put your business cards at the dry cleaners even, because people come in and I get lash extensions, and the lash lady has my cards at her place, and people will go in and say, oh, I saw your card there. So what would normally be a cold lead has just now turned into a warm lead, because they've heard that you're selling the product. They sort of know a little something about it just simply from looking at or seeing your business card or flyer, whatever you decide to put together and leave there. So those have been really successful ventures for me, is trying to find, partnerships that work, sort of two ways. And it's also a really authentic relationship that you develop with these people, because you want to see them do well, small businesses. I've got a gal who I have to call. She has a catering business and she does meals for families in the area locally. And I want to link up with her and do a food pairing, wine tasting, and have, be obviously marketing her business in hopes that when she's got people that are going to be using her catering businesses, she can then refer them, to my business and wine. So that, I would say, is having, sort of growth plans in place and goals, has been huge for me. It holds me accountable, because every time I don't accomplish something 1 month, it gets transferred to that next month. And I know that's a really common thing, and you guys probably have heard that a million times before, so it's not necessarily something new. But what was new to me was having a growth plan. So actually writing down how you're going to do something, and a specific name or person or business that you're going to contact and reach out to. The other thing that I would say about growth that is kind of one of my favorite quotes that I use all the time with my kids in particular, is talking about, I always say that growth happens when you're uncomfortable. So get uncomfortable at least once a day. And for everybody, their definition of uncomfortable is going to be something different. Some people have a little bit of social anxiety, so it's hard for them to reach out to people socially. They might not naturally be an outgoing person, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be successful in a business that requires them to interact with people. It just means they're going to have to overcome a challenge or overcome that obstacle, just work a little bit harder at it than somebody else. So the other, and on that note too, I kind of talk about, with my kids and myself, about knowing what your opportunities are and what your challenges are, and writing them down and having a plan in place to capitalize on your opportunities and to solve problems of what your challenges are going to be. How are you going to overcome that challenge? So for me, I live in Michigan. It's very different than the Texas area, I have heard. You guys have a lot of consultants down there. And I think we have a handful of consultants, but nobody in this area other than the one I have signed on, which is on the opposite side of town from me. And then the other one that I know of that's on the books is 3 hours away. So I have an opportunity because I'm the only, I'm one of the only people around here. And so it's new and it's, really ground level. So I'm trying to capitalize on that for as long as I can and as much as possible. But then I also have challenges that come with that, which is that nobody knows what I am and what clean crafted wine is. So I really have to work hard to network about the company and the difference between our wines from, mass produced wines, and educate as many people as I can. So for me, social media, which is another key component, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily use social media. For me, that's been a huge benefit because, again, it turns cold leads, I think, into warm leads just from the fact that it creates a buzz because they see it, they see me, they see the, I'm having friend requests or whatever on Instagram and Facebook, and they're like, oh yeah, I see you're doing this. And so when I bump into them out socially, then that becomes an easy, authentic conversation to have because they've already seen it through social media. So that's been helpful for me, I think, in trying to overcome that obstacle of not having a lot of people out there and knowing what Scout and Cellar is and what clean crafted wines are. Let's see, what was the other? And then really the last thing was sort of key point that I felt was so huge was really when you're passionate about what you are sharing with people. I do think that it creates an enthusiasm and an excitement where people don't necessarily feel like they're being sold a product. They want to be a part of that experience. And whether it be a part of that experience because they want to host a tasting, or just part of the experience of drinking the clean crafted wine that you have shared the story with them. And that's kind of how I approach things in my tastings as well. And not all of them, because obviously some tastings you're a little bit more on your game than others. But in general, I would say, that is usually my goal, is that the message in my tastings that when I have them is very much, this is an experience, and drinking wine is an experience, and sharing the evening with this group of people. And so I'm always very, at the end of my tastings, I'm always very appreciative of the hostess for sharing the evening with me, but allowing me to share the experience with them and their friends. And so I feel like that message and that tone tends to create, more people want to buy because they want to be a part of that experience, as opposed to buying a product, feeling like they're buying a product necessarily. Let's see what else. Those are I tried to keep it pretty brief, so we had lots of time to cover sort of the Q&A, and if people had very specific questions that they wanted to ask about what I do or what I bring to a tasting or that kind of stuff. I was afraid I'd get really long-winded if I went too detailed. So I tried to keep it pretty sort of broad picture in that regard. Let's see. Yeah.
Well, Jen, I think some people are starting to put some questions, over here in the chat feature.
Okay.
Teresa is asking if you have specific sales goals that you have on repeat each month.
I do. My goals typically are, from a personal sales standpoint, is usually between 5,000 and 6,000 a month. And I have goals that they shift and change a little bit based on where I'm at, what time of year it is, and that as far as adding to my team. That's one area that I just recently added my third consultant to my team. So it's growing, at not like, leaps and bounds, which is kind of funny, because you would think, because there's not a lot of consultants in the area, that would be something that a lot of people would jump into. But it hasn't been that way. And the nature of how I am approaching the business, I don't want it to be anything that is anything other than authentic, and that people would want to be a part of this. And so that's something that I work through. But
Are these new consultants that you have, are they customers? Are they past customers, or are they just, they hear it and they jump on?
No, actually all three of them, no, not one of them had a sip of wine when they had signed on as consultants. One, I had a relationship with two of them prior. Yeah. So
you've got, someone wants to see the planner that you're using again. If you can show that.
This is the best. I just ordered this for my new consultant, but you actually have to go in. It's called Big Plans. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
and it's by Gartner Studios. And the item number, so I ordered one. If you just go to their website, there's a smaller version, and it doesn't have the to-dos on the left side. It's smaller. This is the part that I love. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it on there? It's got goals, tasks, and the bottom half. And then it's got a whole left side that's all blank. So I write all my like tasting information and that down there. But the item number, if you wanted to go on, you can go on to their website, and it's 34484. And that's this blue one. It's awesome. I love it.
So we've got the question of, how do you close a tasting to maximize your orders?
How do I close a tasting to
How do you get people to order so much? If you've got a party and you did $1,000, $2,000, are you saying specific things, or and how many people are at your tasting?
You know what I will say? I usually my tastings are generally, I would say, between the 10 to 16 people at a tasting. So when I'm talking to my hostess beforehand, I let them know, the max number is 16 people, usually, to get you there. If you send out an invite for 18 to 20 people, that kind of gets you in that sweet spot. What was helpful, and which now is shifting and I'm noticing a little bit different, but that $99 gets you free shipping is killer, because I already, I kind of know then that I can, if I have, 14 people at a tasting, I can, on the low side, I can assume that I'm probably going to get 10 people that are going to spend that $99 just so that they get the free shipping. And when I'm in the tastings, I really sort of talk about that and say, oh, so if you're on the, verge of between the, 3 bottles, just throw the extra 4th one in there, because then you get the free shipping. Otherwise, it's $14 for shipping. So you might as well get the wine. And, most people generally do that. But now that we don't have that, now I'm selling more quantities, like the 4 bottle or the 6 bottle, because those are the threshold for $9 or $10. And that doesn't sound that bad. It sounds relatively reasonable for most people. So I feel like we're kind of working our way around that. And then the 6 bottle, I say, oh, and you get 5% off if you do 6 bottles. So, but that's
if you've got a party, and because I know I get this a lot, and you've got someone that's going to order 1 bottle or 2 bottles or piggyback a bottle, do you say anything to them to get them to order that's been successful for you, or are you just letting people do that 1 or 2 bottle order?
I haven't had too many of those. I occasionally I will. And if I remind them, I say, oh, okay, as I'm looking through the paperwork, I'm like, okay, so you've got just the 1 bottle. I'm like, and you're okay with, you've got the shipping on here that's going to be, $14.99. So like, yeah, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So it's not a pressure situation. Then there's the ones that that they're merging, and they're just going to have it shipped to one house. So they order 2 bottles and 2 bottles. But again, I account for that. So if I have 14 people at a tasting, there, and I'm going to get a couple of those that are going to actually really only be 2 bottles per person, but it's 1 order. So that sort of falls into play there as well.
Okay. How many tastings are you doing a month?
On average, I'm doing about 3 tastings a month, and May was my biggest, and that was 4 tastings. That was a little crazy. And then I've had a couple of events that I have worked at. Those work a little differently, but yeah. And those I try to limit. So
how and we've got Angela's asking, how long are the tastings at the businesses? How long are you there? How
Oh gosh, that's
That's Alyssa, sorry.
I guess it varies. I've had a couple of different ones. I would say my first tasting, I was there. I mean, I'd say on average, like 3-4 hours. It depends. I've because I'm lingering around, afterwards, cleaning up and all that. Is your question more like from the time you walk in to the time it ends, or the actual like event itself?
I'm not sure that's coming from Alyssa. So Alyssa, if you can just kind of, she says, how long is the event itself is what she's asking.
Oh, usually just a couple of hours. That they've been open houses that, yeah.
Okay. And Teresa's asking about the breakdown for your yearly goals, monthly, weekly, like, I guess, daily. How are you taking that big chunk of your goal and breaking it down into smaller little boulders that are actually more attainable, incoming producing activities every day? What is it that you're doing?
Oh, well, I mean, using that list on the side, it's okay. My goal today is if I make this phone call and this phone call, and call this person and call this person.
Okay.
That's for me. That's how I break it down. My goal is like it's more monthly, and every month it's a little bit different. And for me, the motivation comes at different times. Sort of waves of motivation come at different times. Sometimes it's at 10 o'clock at night, and I get into my office, and that's when I am looking at my thing. Oh yeah, I've got to send those emails out, and I wanted to get that done this week. Okay, let's get it done. And so that's when I have the time, and that's when it allows for it. So I start firing stuff off. If I'm laying in bed, I'm doing, okay, what am I going to do for my Instagram post tomorrow? And I'll put that together. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. And if it did, Teresa, just kind of elaborate on that. Tara's asking, so she's tried reaching out to several yoga instructors and personal training studios, and she's kind of getting shut down, saying that they don't drink. And she's getting a little apprehensive about reaching out to any of the others. And she's just wondering if you can offer any tips or solutions. What are you saying to these people that, you're approaching them with the business? And how are you kind of getting past that first person at the door, I guess? But it sounds to me like you have personal relationships with these places.
I do. The couple that so the couple that I've had personal relationships with. It's at the gym that I frequent. And then the other one is skincare gal that I know. But then there was one that I did an open house for, and I had never met him before. However, he works out at the gym that I work out at, and so he had a relationship with the owner of the gym. Wasn't able to make that first tasting in December that I had, and so that was kind of how that was a lead there. And now he's a personal customer and repeats and calls me and says, can you order me, this, that, and the other. So, so that's that. But I have a couple of calls that I have to make that are going to be cold calls, but they're businesses that I frequent. So my orthodontist,
Well, and she's kind of also asking that, they were friends of hers, and I guess I can shed a little bit of light on this, Tara, because I am, a personal trainer. And for them to just say, I don't drink, and to kind of just turn you away like that, they really need to be open-minded to, they may not be drinking, but I guarantee everybody that's walking to their gym is drinking. I'm a personal trainer. I don't take vitamins or supplements, but I know people are looking for them. So they do need to be educated on what they're going to be, giving and offering to their clients. So you can take that approach, as far as if you do decide to approach them again, you can say, I think that's great that you're not drinking, but I guarantee you're going to have people that are going to be asking you, I'm not going to give up my wine. I'm not going to give up my alcohol. What can I do? And they need to have that information for their clients. It's for them. It's it's only going to grow their client base as well. And you can even use that situation, they need to be aware of all the things that their clients are asking. So you can still leave a card and just say, it sounds like maybe you're not the wine drinker, but I guarantee everyone that walks in is. It would be nice if they had an option, and this is the option. It's, you say it's keto and paleo friendly. Would you mind if I left a card so that if they're looking for that, which they're all looking for it, you will have the information to give them. So you kind of make them look like the hero a little bit, and kind of empower them to be all knowing about. If they just say, well, I don't drink wine and I'm not going to tell people about it. Well, if I went to my trainer and said, what wine can I drink? And they don't give me any information, I may look for a different trainer, because they're just not, I have to know this stuff. I have to know what supplements and what vitamins to take, even though I don't take that kind of stuff. So if they're your friends, you can probably have that conversation with them. Let's see. We also have, who else? So Missy wants to know what your Instagram page is.
It is sip.savor.enjoy Scout and Cellar, I think. There's a lot of dots in there.
Okay. Christine's asking, what other direct selling people are you reaching out? Oh, no. She says, I'm sorry, hang on. She wants to know what partnerships that have been most effective for you. So she's targeting realtors. Have you found that some are more effective than others?
You know what? It's interesting that you say that. So I had an opportunity, someone that found me on my Instagram page, but oddly enough, we had a personal connect, like a friend of mine used to work for their real estate company, and they're a boutique real estate company that does high-end houses. And he had reached out to me because they have a big exclusive open house, which is basically like they're trying to sell one of their high-end houses. And so it's a big event for like a very select, limited group of people. They have food there, wine, and he had called me to do this event, and I was so excited because I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. And they ended up selling the house. So before they ended up having the event. So that's a person that I have to circle back with to find out, are they planning on doing another one? So those are some of those things that fall on my to-do list.
Okay.
But yeah. So that, I mean, that's, I beyond that, I have not, I mean, I've only done like marketing information out to realtors, and I really haven't had the time. And so I haven't really had any other relationships formed yet with real estate companies.
Okay. Real quick, I'm gonna just share what Brooke Mall, she's another consultant. We'll get back to Jen. I want to just get a little bit of a different take on what she's doing. She's had personal sales very high since she started, and she started last year. So she was not able to be on the call. She had something to do, but she sent me what she does. And when she first started, she was doing a lot of tastings. She was doing about 4 to 5 a month. So she really hit the ground running. And now she's doing about 1 to 2 a month. She does reach out to her current customers each week. And to keep it all straight, she uses something called TeamZ, and that's TEAMZY. And she can usually capture a few sales that way. And she also will reach out to them personally. She's using text, Facebook messages, emails. She doesn't really do the mass emails very often. Those weren't very successful for her, so she's not doing those. When it comes to tastings, because I think a lot of us are kind of get a little bit frustrating with our tastings. She said, I'm very choosy about who I do tastings for. She says at this point, she's been traveling to affluent areas where a $30 bottle of wine is not a big deal. She says, I've done some tastings in some less affluent areas or suburbs, and she says she ends up getting a bunch of those 1 to 2 bottle orders. So that being said, we talked about a little bit about being mindful about who you invite to your tastings. If you're going to invite, the struggling single parent to a tasting, that may not be somebody that's, you want to have a whole room full of those, because they're going to be uncomfortable thinking they need to order, and a $25 bottle of wine may not be in their budget for the week, or B, they're just not going to order, and you're going to get frustrated. So also being mindful about who you are inviting, make sure that you can picture them buying a $25 bottle of wine. Sometimes those 23-year-olds, hey, we've got some rich 23-year-olds in the world, but sometimes the age of the people that you're inviting, they may not be able to afford $100 worth of wine. So sometimes just taking all that into consideration can make the wine, the tasting successful. I've had Mary Sisk. I talked to her yesterday. She's been with the company for 2 years. She had a very successful tasting the other day, and she did something a little bit out of the box. And she said I could share that what she did. She actually had 2 or 3 people be the host of the tasting. I think sometimes we just pick one person to host, but she actually gathered 3 people. And because she's been to a couple tastings that she's hosted, it turned into a party. They drank her wine and they didn't order. And we've all had those, and they're going to happen. But when they do happen to you, you do, what can I do different to not make that happen again? So when this opportunity came back around for her to host a tasting for this group again, she said, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm not going to provide the wine and turn it into a wine party and then not get the sales. So she had 3 hosts of the party. So 3 different people, which opened up 3 different networks of people that they knew. So the numbers were going to get there for the tasting. And she had those 3 people split the cost of the wine. Mary did not provide the wine for this tasting. I know a lot of us are doing that, and there's reasons why we do that. But Mary did not provide the wine for the wine tasting. And she told her host that they will be able to get all of the wine credits. She set the little diagram, that we've all seen for host credits, and said this is what you had to order. You could order if you got to $2,000 in sales, you guys could split that $400 worth of wine. Got them very excited. She had about, I think she said 12 to 14 people there. Again, she had a great number because 3 different people are reaching out to their networks. And if you have one person, sometimes they're like, well, I called all my friends and only 8 of them are coming, and then only 3 show up. So it keeps that number a little bit bigger. But they were also cheerleaders for Mary. You had 3 other people there at that tasting that were enticing people to buy things because they knew the more the sales got up for their party, the more wine they got. And that's just that was the whole idea for the wine perks, for host perks. But a lot of us kind of found that it was difficult to find somebody to host a tasting and buy the wine. So we ended up starting to buy the wine. Hey, I'll provide the wine, but I'm gonna get the host perks out of it. So that might be something that might be helpful if you've had some tastings that weren't so successful with having either you provide the wine or having a host provide the wine. Maybe make it a little bit bigger and have a couple people become the host. Let them split it's $125 of wine. Each of them are splitting that, so they're not investing a whole lot as well. And let's say the sales aren't great, you're not out anything, because we've all had those parties where we left and it was like, I should have just sat on the couch and drank my own wine. We've all had them. It's normal. It's part of the business, but we're all learning and growing, and hopefully we can come up with some ideas and tactics so that we can get past those and avoid those kinds of tastings in the future if we can. So let's see. I'm going to go back. So Christine uses Teamsy as well. And let's see. Tracy was saying for Jenn's first tasting with her gym, how did the gym owner position it? What was in it for him? Was it strictly customer appreciation, or did he benefit in some way?
Both. It was customer appreciation. So he bought the wine for the tasting, which was awesome because, of course, that was my first tasting. So I hadn't even received my first delivery from my business kit yet. So he did that, but then he also got all of the wine credits from the event. What I gained, obviously, was I have now a reoccurring referral source that has continued well beyond that first tasting. So it's been great. And the commissions, obviously, from the tasting, which was wildly successful for a first tasting for me. I think I almost maxed out the tasting, which was awesome. So so it kind of started the bar a little bit high for me. So now I had, went into all my other tastings having expectations that they're going to all be, near $2,000 every time you have a tasting. So anyways.
Well, and then I know that sometimes we have a tasting. I've been guilty of this as well. I have a tasting, had some great new customers. A month or two goes by and I haven't circled back around to them. And, that's something I know that I personally need to work on and, reaching out to our customers. But I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how all of us really do wear an invisible sign that says, make me feel special. And so I'd like to kind of know what you guys are doing to make your customers feel special, because we all know that we can go down the street and buy a bottle of wine and it's super easy and it's quick. But what are we doing to make these people come back to us when they think about, I want some wine? So does anybody have anything they want to offer out there saying, hey, this is what I do for my customers to make them feel special? Okay, Teresa's got something. You can unmute yourself, Teresa. I'll unmute you. There we go. You're unmuted.
So that's actually one of the biggest things that I do is to let people know that they're appreciated for being a customer, client, or whatever, not just for my Scout and Cellar business, but for my other business that I have. And the biggest and easiest and least expensive thing in the entire world that means so much to people is a handwritten thank you note. I mean, whether it's a client, it's a customer, or if it's a friend, just something random. I mean, if they do or do not purchase, I just do it to anyone that goes to to a tasting. If I am able to scrounge up their address somehow, even if they didn't purchase or however that may be, even if they just bought one bottle, this costs 10 cents and plus a stamp. So 70 cents total, maybe, depending on how much stamps are even right now. Totally the best investment ever, because I get customers from my first tasting texting me, I want a case of this, when they run out. I don't even have to reach out to them anymore, because they remember that I was the person that took 5 minutes tops to handwrite a thank you note, just to say thanks for coming and really appreciate, having you at the event. And I know so-and-so, whoever their host was, appreciated you attending, blah, blah, blah. If you need anything, let me know. And I don't even put my card in there. I just put my name on there and say, thanks so much. Text if you need anything. And I just put my cell phone number in there. Because I feel sometimes a business card can feel a little inauthentic when you put it in there. But so if you handwrite that kind of thing, it's huge. Such a big, easy way to say thank you to people. And telling them happy birthday. Like if their birthday rolls up, everyone has those Facebook notifications. That's an easy one too, just to send out a happy birthday card or something to them, or text or whatever.
Yeah, I love that personal approach. I think we've kind of got lost with the technology that we have. It is exciting sometimes when you see that the effort. I even tell my kids, hey, write a thank you note to somebody. And they're like, can I just call them or text them? It's like, no, it just, the time it takes you to sit down, people appreciate that. So that's actually very, very good. I know a couple other consultants that do that as well, and I think it's paying off. Does anybody else have anything that they do to love on their customers and to keep them coming back to us that they want to share? Jenn's like, I have so many customers, I don't even know how.
I really don't know. I'm listening. These are all great ideas. The other thing, I do send an email, which at the end of all my tastings, that I'll send to everybody that was at the tasting and the hostess. And it's usually pretty personal and heartfelt and very specific to the group that I, again, tapping into talking about, thank you for allowing me to share the experience. It's very clear that and very evident that, the relationships in that room are very meaningful and very powerful in all of your worlds. And, thank you for allowing me to, be a part of that for one evening. And, and then kind of, if you have anything that you need in the future, blah, blah, sort of the basics and have any questions and that. So, that's kind of what I do to kind of recap the night or the tasting.
Yes, That's good information too. I got a couple other questions.
How do I get everyone's email?
I'm sorry?
I saw a question on here. It said, how do I get everyone's email from the tastings? Is that a question for me?
Might be. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. I was just asking, you said you send an email to the hosts and everyone that attended the tasting. Do you have a form that you have at your tasting where you're get everyone's emails, or?
I do. Well, I get it off of their order form is one way. And the other thing that I do is at my tastings is every hostess gets a hostess basket of wine goodies. I've got it down now where I have a huge table in my basement that's like stocked with, stemless wine glasses, cocktail napkins, nothing crazy, but just enough to say thank you. And then I'm able to display it at the tasting. And then anybody that purchases wine that evening, they fill out a little slip, which was it's in our original stuff, that the email that we got with like our SIP cards and all that, these slips that have email address, and it says, I'm just here for the free wine, I want to do a tasting, or I'm interested in being a consultant. So they put that in a bowl, and then I keep those, and that's another way. So if for some reason somebody doesn't purchase wine, I am able to get their email from that, as well as the SIP cards. I collect the SIP cards at the end of the night. So even if they don't order, I tell them, which will happen where they liked something that we offered that I offered at the tasting, but we don't have it available right now because it was already out. That happens often with the bubbles. So what I'll do is I'll tell them, I'm going to collect the SIP cards at the end of the night. Make sure you give me your information. And I keep a customer pref list where that way when the bubbles come back in or that particular wine comes in, I reach out and send emails to those people, letting them know if they're not following me on social media. And it's like bubbles are back. I'll put it on my Instagram page, but a lot of people aren't on Instagram. And so I send those folks emails, as much as I possibly can. There's only so many hours in a day too to manage a lot of that stuff. So that's how I get their email addresses that way as well.
Okay, so that was my question. If they aren't ordering, that's how you do it, is you collect the SIP cards. Okay, gotcha.
So between the one of the three, I'm bound to get an email.
All right, that's great information. We've got a couple other questions. Guys, stay on. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording so that it doesn't get too long, and we can talk about some of these other questions. So stay on, but I do want to end this recording. So for those that are watching this as a replay, if you have any questions, put it in the comments, and we can hopefully get those questions answered as soon as we can. But again, we're trying to learn how to grow our personal sales. I hope you guys got some great tips and some takeaways from this, and we look forward to seeing what you guys can do next month. So I hope you guys have all a good night, and we're going to end the recording right now.